best NBA storylines going into the playoffs. What are some things that you have looked at that you think are fascinating storylines coming into these NBA playoffs?
All right, here's a few that I have. How is Cade Cunningham going to look in his first taste of the playoffs? Riv, I'm assuming that you're going to go in depth a little bit more on that.
No, you can, because I got another one I'm going to steal from you.
I'm going to be transparent. I love our Knicks, Joel. This could be a dicey matchup.
Vegas apparently doesn't think so.
Apparently, the Pistons are favored. No.
No, the Knicks are favored by like minus 400.
Okay, love that. That's huge. Excuse me, apologies. I don't know what I saw.
Vegas isn't always correct.
I believe the Knicks are going to win. 100%. I do believe that in my heart.
Could be ugly.
However, that Pistons defense can make things muddy. And Cade Cunningham, I feel like I trust him to rise up to the occasion. I'm only in the Knicks, but Cade Cunningham, all eyes are on him. I'm very, very excited to see him in a playoff situation. The next one, Giannis against the Pacers.
He can win.
You want to talk about storylines?
The idea.
I am turning my back on Indiana because you want to know why? As a man, you stand 10.
And KBJ isn't playing.
What did I guarantee?
As a man, you
What did I
stand
guarantee? Riff, look me in my eyes. What did I guarantee?
Giannis to play well.
Not only will he play well, but that he won a playoff series.
Yes, you did. You guaranteed it.
And
No matter who they were
I
gonna
have
play.
rode with Indiana all season long.
Since the Sabonis days.
Thank
Long
you.
time.
I really appreciate that, John. That really means a lot to me. Giannis has been otherworldly.
Yes.
And he was the difference in them winning and losing last season. And him not being there was the main reason they lost. Here's the thing. You don't have Dame. That's going to suck.
What can you do?
But what you can do is backpack the way that he has the entire month of April and March.
And Dame, they said that he might get cleared for the playoffs.
He could play.
KBJ's been hooping.
That's and by
The worst case scenario
Ryan
for the
Rollins.
Pacers, worst case, was facing Milwaukee. They needed to clutch up and get that 3 seed. That's been my big storyline. The idea turns into the reality.
Nice. Okay.
Here we
It
go.
has been an idea for a couple years now.
Okay, here we go.
No, and are you gonna stand on that? Are you gonna stand on that? I know you're fucking
loses
shaking.
No, I'm not.
You're shaking.
Because according to you, the Pacers have 2 All-NBA players. Why should I be worried?
They do. So who are you taking?
I'm taking the
Excellent
Pacers.
point.
All right. What's Giannis gonna do?
Excellent point.
No,
What's the idea
30,
gonna
12,
do?
6, 65.
Oh, so he's gonna play good.
Do I smell another small bag?
Interesting.
He's going to average 30. 30, 10, and 6.
So let me ask you a question. If that's the case, does that become a reality to you then? Does the idea transfer to reality?
Performance, but losing in the first round, like an actual deep playoff from a Giannis, that's an idea right now.
Okay, good to
And
know.
the last couple of years, that's an idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, got it. So
I have to think
30.
deep about that.
Another beef they have
Interesting.
right
That's so interesting.
now. I
Joel.
got 3. You
And if I'm not mistaken,
let's
then
please hear
Riv
this.
will go. If I'm not mistaken, you guaranteed it, but you were only confident if they played the Pistons.
That is the only team I was confident.
If it was
So
the Pacers and Knicks, he was hesitating.
now
this
he has to
isn't,
stand
this
10.
isn't our prediction show, anyways.
He has to stand 10. So he guaranteed it. It's out there. The film is there.
I
He
trust
said it.
Halliburton to save my legacy.
Yep, there you go. Talk your shit. I have 4 storylines. I think I'm only say 3 though. I'm surprised you didn't say the Luka and LeBron storyline. I think that one's pretty
Writes
interesting.
itself.
But for me, I got 3 storylines. The first one, Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. I think that is a very interesting storyline. Storyline we've watched all year kind of play up from the moment of them playing in marquee regular season matchups to them battling in the standings. I think really being hyper fixated on their path to the ECF, both of them, 1 and 2 seeds, both of them have to play Knicks or Milwaukee. I think both of them are going to cause some somewhat tough matchups. I watched that Knicks and Boston game, the last one, and it gave me some confidence that the Knicks can still make that a really good series.
Yep.
But the storyline is all the pressure is on Cleveland and Boston, more Cleveland than Boston, because we know Boston can get there. They've done it for like 5-6 years, but all the pressure is on both teams to get to that ECF, to see each other in a 1-2 seed, to really give us that juggernaut, colossal matchup that we've been praying and hoping for all season. My next storyline is the Houston Rockets. I think that is probably, outside of Cade, that's probably the biggest team storyline of the season. We just talked about it a little bit prior. Them going up against Golden State makes the storyline so much better because you have the Houston and Steph Curry saga where you had James Harden, Chris Paul, James Harden, Dwight Howard, versus Steph Curry and Clay, and then Steph Curry, Clay, and Kevin Durant, and then you had that where they just were so locked in, had so many battles in the West, were 1 seed, 2 seed. Then you fast forward, Steph had some down years with his team. James Harden, makes a couple adjustments to a different team. But now Houston is back. And Houston is back Golden State looks back with Jimmy Butler. So now you have two teams, the young boys and the old heads, Steph, Jimmy, and Dre versus these young guys on the rise. It makes for an interesting storyline because we've been, we had OKC be the new team on the block. Now we have Houston be the new team on the block. Now you have them having to go through a Hall of Fame player, a top 10 player of all time, a playoff riser in Jimmy Butler, one of the best defensive players in our era, Steve Kerr, a Hall of Fame coach. What better way to do it and to kind of stamp yourself on the league, stamp yourself and put yourself out there than by going out and beating Steph Curry in the first round, beating Jimmy Butler in the first round, beating Draymond Green. I mean, you couldn't paint a better story. Like, Minnesota would have been cool, but it just doesn't, like, Memphis would have been whatever, but, like, it just doesn't have, even Denver would have been all right, but it doesn't have the same feel as going out there and beating, one, your rival that you've had for, like, 10 years, and then Steph, Draymond, Jimmy, champions, winners, guys that been to the finals, So I think that one. And then OKC. Another storyline that has some heightened aggression to it. A team that's kind of walked through the regular season this year that's been on a pay. Like, it's been them or Cleveland all year. They've been two of the best teams all year. And now you have this situation where you have people, who think they could walk through the West. You have a situation where people on Twitter have watched these marquee matchups and have seen OKC, get some fits from other top teams. Now it's your time to stamp it. SGA just is going to win his MVP. I think he's going to win his MVP. You are one of the most historic defenses in the regular season this year. All that is in the gutter if you don't make it to the WCF. All that is washed away if you don't make it at least to the WCF. And I think OKC and Houston specifically, those are two teams that have the most pressure in a sense, just from a team perspective for different reasons, obviously. But OKC being the most pressure because now you just won 65 games. You have the MVP. You have an historic defense. There's no reason for you to lose.
Can I ask you a question in terms of the pressure? I agree with you. I think OKC and Cleveland are two of the teams with the most pressure. Can you argue that the Lakers are in that conversation since acquiring Luka?
Yes. Yeah. I would say yes, because Luka and LeBron, they always bring pressure wherever they go. And Luka coming from a team where we thought can compete for a championship, going to play with LeBron is definitely the same pressure. I'd argue it's different pressure because LeBron already has 4 championships.
I agree.
We've seen him win a championship. We've seen this Laker team get deep. As for OKC, we've seen this Laker team get deep into the playoffs. As for OKC, we haven't seen that yet. 100%. So it's a more of a new can you do it pressure. For the Lakers, it's can you do it again type of pressure. Can you make a run again? Can you stay healthy? Can you do it in an in-season turnaround that we don't see a lot? So it's same pressure but different paths to the pressure, I would say.
I say Luka for the sole fact that the Mavs gave up on him. The Mavs basically threw him away.
That's my storyline.
Oh,
Luka's probably the singular storyline.
That's the biggest storyline in the NBA.
That's why I didn't say LeBron and Luka. I didn't say the Lakers. No, I just said Luka Doncic.
Go ahead, John, because you said that.
Yeah, I think you guys made some really great ones. I think the biggest one would have to be Luka Doncic after not only unceremoniously being traded by the Mavericks, but afterwards they basically started to rip him apart. I mean, taking subliminal shots about his work ethic, his commitment to the team, whether or not he was in the right shape and condition while he was hurt, nursing a calf injury. He comes to the Lakers, and their season immediately skyrockets to a top-3 seed, while the Mavericks year is falling off a cliff. A lot of injuries out of their control, and Nico Harrison's probably looking around and saying to himself, damn, like, the optics of this move probably aren't great, and now you have a Laker team that's moving to the playoffs with a first-time head coach in J.J. Redick who's done a fantastic job this year, and there's some players in the supporting cast that aren't quite proven. Guys like Jackson Hayes. Gabe Vincent hasn't proven himself outside of Miami, and I think those players, all of which are going to be key contributors in the Lakers going on a playoff run. And of course, when you have LeBron James embracing the role of a connective passer and a connected decision maker, it alleviates some pressure for the other two guards in their backcourt. So I would have to agree with all of you guys in the sense that this is, or you just said now, this is the biggest storyline to me, the Lakers and Luka. The two other ones that I'm looking forward to are the 4-5 matchups, which you touched on. In the Eastern Conference, you have the Bucks versus the Pacers, and last year they played. Of course, Giannis doesn't play in that series. The Pacers win 6 games to go into the conference finals. But this year, you have some optimism that you're getting healthy a little bit. Bobby Portis is back. Damian Lillard's doing some light conditioning, some light stuff. Who knows if he can return? And then, of course, Giannis Antetokounmpo is probably going to average 30, 12, and 6 and insane shooting in this matchup. So I believe there's a little bit of a rivalry here from Milwaukee, and I also think that there's a pressure because if you lose in the first round, now there's a door that opens up for Giannis to leave. The last storyline that I'm looking forward to is a rematch. A rematch of the 2020 second round of the playoffs in the bubble, where the Los Angeles Clippers were seen to be destined to play the Lakers in the conference finals. then a young big man in Nikola Jokic and a young guard in Jamal Murray came back down from 3-1 for a second time in that playoff run, and they stunned the Clippers season. The Clippers let go of Doc Rivers, but now their coach is Tyronn Lue, who to me is a way better coach. Clearly better playoff coach, one would say. And so it's a little bit of a curiosity here and intrigue. Healthy Kawhi Leonard, James Harden's every year in the
You're not gonna
playoffs.
win it, bro.
It's one less opportunity year by year for them to win that championship. So I believe both of these teams have some pressure. Nuggets is fired their coach. The Clippers, they're an older team that's having a good year. So I think this is a matchup which will be tightly contested.
I think
Julius.
the Luka storyline is the most interesting because it's a revenge tour for him. And looking at how he looked when he went back to Dallas in the tribute video that he had quivering while watching it, he didn't want to leave. And I don't think he ever was going to leave Dallas. He was going to remain loyal to them. And they threw him out. So I think there's an added motivation, and he's been much better getting to the basket and getting to the rim as of recently. And if they get that version of Luka, they could go to the NBA Finals. I mean, you've seen the two matchups that they've played OKC. The first one, they beat them. The second one, before Luka got ejected, they were up against them. And you can argue if Luka finishes the game down the stretch, they could have won that game. So yeah, I look at the Lakers and how they match up with OKC. That's a 7-game series to me. And with the Lakers star power, they have a chance against anybody. I think the most team-oriented storyline that's the most interesting is just whether or not the Celtics are going to go back-to-back. Because they quietly won 61 games this year, but it doesn't feel like the vibes are all good because Jaylen Brown is dealing with like a knee injury right now that he has to get pain injections for to, help that knee injury. If he's not 100% and not at his best, how do the Celtics look? And can they go back-to-back if Jaylen Brown isn't at his very best? So I think there's always added pressure for a team to go back-to-back. The Celtics have had as good of a chance as anybody to do it in this playoff run, but there's some things going on there with Jaylen Brown's cryptic tweets as he had last year and the injury with him, and Porzingis is always kind of like a wild card of whether or not he stay healthy or not. And Jason Tatum, this could be the year that he just goes on a phenomenal playoff run with excellent efficiency, or this could be a year where it's more like last playoff run where he's really good. The efficiency isn't all that good because he hasn't been that good of a three-point shooter in the second half of the NBA season. And maybe this year, him not playing to that level that we all expect him to and to take a leap like a top 3 player in the world, it actually ends up costing Boston. I think OKC, whether or not they're ready to win it all, is another interesting storyline. Best net rating of all time. All signs would point to this team being the team that wins the NBA championship, but there's question marks about their experience and their age. And the last storyline is the Knicks and Timberwolves both made colossal trades. And which one of these teams after this playoffs we will be looking at and saying they made the right or the wrong decision? Right now, I'm leaning towards the Knicks making the wrong decision. I think Cat has been excellent, and you cannot deny how good he's been. But at the same time, for the Knicks to only have a 1-game improvement on the win tally when they added Cat and they added Mikal Bridges, and these two moves basically zapped all flexibility you have to sign free agents and to trade for another big-name star. This is the core that the Knicks have said, these are our guys, and we're going all in with this core. And with the Timberwolves, it was more of a reset for them. That's why the expectations were different. It's, okay, we know we're not going to go to the NBA Finals, so we're just going to try to get what we can for Cat. The first-round pick they got that was lottery protected from Detroit now is going to convert because Detroit miraculously made the playoffs. So now the Timberwolves actually have a first-round pick that's going to be in the teens of this draft, along with Dante, a great cost control contract, and Julius Randle. So I think with all the skepticism around the Knicks right now, I think they're going to beat the Pistons. But there's people that think the Pistons are going to beat the Knicks. And over the second half of the season, the Pistons and Knicks record, they have been similar.
They played them well, too.
So if the Pistons end up beating the Knicks, and even if the Timberwolves lose in the first round to the Lakers in a hard-fought series, I mean, just how both teams are going to be talked about is just going to be extremely different. And even if the Knicks do win in the first round, let's say they get smoked in 5 by Boston, they're also going to get a lot of scrutiny and pushback because they made these all-in moves to get over the hump, and it feels like they are the same. They made a lateral move.
I really, 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 really hate that Karl Anthony Towns' move gets grouped in with Mikal Bridges because one was clearly better than the other. Getting Karl Anthony Towns was a really strong move. Trading 5 firsts away for Mikal Bridges, I will never be okay with. I will never accept the fact that the Knicks decided to move off of their future assets. That you're right, they could have packaged potentially in the future. Let's say Karl Anthony Towns and this Knicks don't work out. Karl Anthony Towns with 5 first-round picks, maybe 6, however many they were allowed to trade, and go and get Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's something that they could have done. But instead, they decided to go all in on a Mikal Bridges who they overpay because it's the Knicks tax, and they knew that the Knicks inevitably wanted Mikal Bridges to be on their roster anyways. They gutted their future for a player who is good. He's good. He's not 5 first good.
No, and I think the reason why it gets grouped in is because both moves were made in the same offseason.
Correct.
So they are like, those are the two moves that they made. And also, Julius Randle just adds a different play style and dynamic to the team. And it's a big reason why the Timberwolves this year have been better at generating threes. Because with the Knicks, it's Jalen Brunson or bust. If he's not initiating offense and playmaking, nobody else is able to dribble, drive, and suck in the defense and kick it out to open shooters. So you look at the Knicks' 3-point attempts from this year and last year, they're virtually the same, even with having better spacing, quote unquote. And Julius Randle being able to drive and kick was so huge to the team last year. Like, you know, even with Cat being a good move, do I think the Knicks right now, if they had Dante and Randle with the first round pick, probably are in the same situation? I kind of think so. You know, Dante had a career year, averaging 15 with us, and he had 40 in Game 7, and where everybody just fell apart. I just think it sucks. It was bad luck for the Knicks, but the Hartenstein move is the one that really did us in.
And it's nothing the Knicks could have done.
Yeah, not being able to keep Hartenstein is the reason why the Knicks aren't better now because of what he brings defensively, and why they needed to trade for Cat because there was no big. You couldn't trust Mitchell Robinson, so you're going into the season with no center, so it made them even more vulnerable to just make the move for Cat because they desperately needed a center.
But it's going to bother me if and when the Knicks season's over that the finger is going to get immediately pointed at Karl Anthony Towns and not Mikal Bridges, who was traded, who they traded more for.
The catcher has worked out. It's been a good marriage. But as you guys kind of all highlighted, it kind of was a matter of trying to do too much at once without waiting for the right opportunity to come. But there's also an aspect to this where, like Pierre highlighted when he came on the show, like for the Knicks to be a consistent 50-win team, when you look at what they were in the 2010s and the late 2000s, it's a huge step forward that you can't really be too mad about the fact they still have one of the best starting fives in the NBA. I think Tom Thibodeau's done a great job with all these players like Josh Hart breaking out and OG. Like, we kind of look at it as a dreary, kind of dire situation, but half of their lineup's having career years.
Definitely.
Jalen Brunson's still in his 20s. So I think there's a lot of stuff that you can kind of be optimistic about, and worst case scenario, you end up packaging Mikal for a player who is better down the line. So
yeah, I think Mikal is the one that is going to get the finger pointed at because I think he doesn't show up in big games.
Yeah.
Maybe he changes that, but I think with the Knicks, they're consistently good and he's a great team in the regular season. But once you reach that, you got to keep going forward, and that's where I feel like once teams start reaching success, it's better when you don't have much expectations because once you start having expectations, that makes you kind of bitter as a fan. But I was talking to my cousin about this, and I was just telling him that I feel like a lot of teams in the East, they have optimism for the future more than the Knicks because they have a younger core. With the Cavaliers, they've had a great season this year. They could be even better if Mobley continues to improve, which is very possible because he's still very young. With the Magic, even though this has been a disastrous season for them, they have Franz and Paolo. Those are two young players you can build around. With the Pistons, they have K. That's a young budding superstar that can be an MVP candidate. With the Knicks, they're all great players. Starting five is one of the best starting fives. This is kind of like the peak that we're seeing. Like, and my phone just fell. Yeah,
this guy hates a case too. Yeah. When did you take it off?
No, I don't like it.
My phone never 30 cracks. Seconds, I was eyeing up your case.
He always puts it in the same spot.
Yeah.
No one's gonna.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes it just does it, but. Okay, I was saying is that everybody on the Knicks has kind of reached their peak. Jalen Brunson, he's amazing. This is probably the best he's going to be, which is not a bad thing, but that is what it is.
Yep.
Cat, same thing. OG, he could go on a run where he looks like amazing, but same thing. Like, these players are pretty much maxed out on their potential. So there is no other room for growth. And if you're hoping for more internal growth, that is just unrealistic. And I feel like the Knicks right now, they're stuck in that place where like they're not quite that contender tier. They're in the next bracket, and it's not good enough because you don't really feel like anybody else can do more. They're kind of maxed out.